Today, for some reason, I felt like rewatching the Aang vs. Ozai fight from Avatar.
I have all the power in the world!
I guess some kind of random nostalgia or something, but watching it made me think of the question I could never come up with a satisfactory answer to: is Avatar anime? For a long time, my answer was simply that no, the word anime refers to animation made in Japan, so it's not anime, but hey, it doesn't really matter if you call it anime or a cartoon. But I think I never liked this answer because deep down it did matter to me. There was a certain magic about anime you could feel even as a child, even if you couldn't quite verbalize it. An edginess, a sharpness, a story that feels like it needed to be told rather than just something meant to entertain. And as I rewatched this fight, I felt some of that magic again. From Ozai's declaration that there would be no discussion, to Aang refusing to sacrifice his pacifism, to the weight of the world and all those who came before him, to just the pure childlike joy of watching them bend the elements. There was something beautiful about it that I felt had to go beyond simple nostalgia. The first thought I had was that beautiful something came from how seriously the show took itself. The animation, the characters, the story, there was a weight to it, and that weight made it feel real. This wasn't just some rainbow-colored cartoon sedation trip meant to keep annoying little children busy. This was a portal to fantastic new worlds, adventures, and people, just like you would see in any other anime today. Stories that let me experience emotions I couldn't even describe as a kid because it was the first time I'd ever experienced them with such intensity.
Connection terminated.
And I thought that maybe these emotions were only possible when the show took itself seriously. But is taking itself seriously really what anime is about? Sure, there's a lot of anime that fits this description, but what about a show like Pop Team Epic, which, if you haven't watched, is an absurdist comedy that feels more reminiscent of a Cartoon Network acid trip than your typical anime, which you might say is a bit of a special outlier, to which I'd say fair, but then how about Doraemon? It's about as freaking Japanese as you can get, and it would be pretty hard to not call it anime, but I wouldn't say it takes itself seriously at all. And again, you could call Doraemon an outlier because it's literally 54 years old, but we can keep going. What about gag comedy like Dropkick on My Devil, or just comedy, slice of life, or more episodic anime in general? Are these shows somehow less anime? Maybe a show doesn't need to have a serious plot to take itself seriously, and it's really about the effort put into the story and animation. But am I really gonna pretend like serious effort doesn't get put into Western cartoons? Like maybe they're not MAP employees, but I'm sure it's really freaking hard still. So then maybe it's less about taking a show seriously and more about the art style. If it looks like anime, then it's an anime. But what about Panty and Stocking? What about Mob Psycho 100? What about Isogen? Even Studio Ghibli's art style doesn't really scream anime to me. It's a uniquely Ghibli style. And I think part of the magic of anime is that freedom for whatever art style the studio wanted to see at the time. Maybe you could say that by default, if it's made in Japan, then it's anime, and if it's not made in Japan but shares enough characteristics, then it can be an honorary or naturalized citizen of anime. And I think you can begin to see that we have gone down the wrong path, or at least a weird and thorny path. I don't really want to call it wrong because there probably exists some really smart person who can better dissect what is and isn't a characteristic of anime, but I think to do so would be missing the point. And I think it'd be better to ask, why do we feel the need to ask these questions in the first place? At least for me, this question comes up because it feels wrong for Avatar to just be a cartoon. The word cartoon has a negative feeling attached to it that feels almost derogatory, which is probably a horrible thing to say, but stems from my personal childhood love turned hatred for Cartoon Network. You see, as a kid back then, you didn't have a lot of choice for entertainment. A time that's, for better or worse, long gone. You could play monochrome Pokemon, read a book, rewatch a VHS tape, or turn on the TV and pray for the best. But obviously everybody has their preferences, and there were a few shows I just could not stand as a kid. But it was okay because the 3 shows I really didn't like were only like a third of the broadcast, so... And as a kid, it was kind of okay just sitting through one episode of Ed, Ed, and Eddie. And no, I fucking wasn't. But it always felt like if I could make it through this one episode, there would be stuff I was dying to watch on the other side. And that's how things kind of were for a while until one day it suddenly wasn't. I have these foggy but still infuriating memories of sitting through like back-to-back vlogs of Ed, Ed, and Eddie, but thinking that surely the next show would be something that didn't make me feel like throwing up, only to be hit by Courage the Cowardly Dog. And again, I know some people probably love these shows, but as a kid, I hated the absurdism, I hated the character designs, the rainbow-colored schizophrenia, and the nihilistic themes that I didn't even know were nihilistic, but just made me feel freaking sad. And because I was a dumb kid who didn't know that Toonami had been completely removed from the weekday afternoon block, I just kept doing this to myself over and over again until one day I told myself I am done with cartoons. Or at least that's what I thought I did, but I still got up every Saturday at 8 AM to watch cartoons on 4Kids TV. It was just that when I got a bit older and learned the word anime, I retroactively called everything on 4Kids anime, even though there were still shows like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and The Winx Club that weren't anime, they were just cartoons. And it's this same phenomenon that my brain wants to do with Avatar. It wants to call it an anime because it looks like what I think an anime is, it sounds like an anime, and I freaking like it. And I think part of my brain wants to do this because it's such a simple and easy way to understand myself. I like anime, I don't like cartoons. Therefore, if I like Avatar, from a purely Boolean logic perspective, it can't be a cartoon. And I know that's such a ridiculous, self-centered way of looking at it, but human brains are weird, or my brain, I guess, I don't know. And as silly as it sounds, I would almost characterize my experience with Cartoon Network as traumatic. Yeah, it sounds freaking stupid in today's world where you can watch literally anything, anywhere, at any time you want, on any freaking device you want. But back then, as a kid, you were freaking counting on Cartoon Network to do you solid and pull you through the day. And at a time when my family was moving across states and just a freaking hard time, felt like Cartoon Network had forsaken me when I needed them the most. Now, am I trying to say that everybody has this extreme black and white perception of anime versus cartoons? No, but I do think everybody has a different idea of what those words mean. I remember when Bleach finally came back after like a decade last year, when one of the top comments on Reddit was like, "Oh man, we finally get some real anime, boys." Which I know shouldn't be taken too seriously, but I thought it was interesting because is none of this stuff real anime to you? The answer to that question probably being no, because this was the anime that person grew up with, not all the things he or she later learned were also considered anime. It's our memories and experiences, especially those from childhood, that give meaning to words like anime, and for everybody it's going to be a little bit different. To some people, it really might just be cartoons made in Japan. Other people might be like me and see early 2000s Foxbox and Toonami. To the generation after, maybe it's Kiss Anime and Crunchyroll. And to the children today, maybe it means clips and edits on TikTok or YouTube. And I think the word anime is naturally susceptible to you giving it your own meaning because it's kind of a nothing burger word. I mean, it's just a Japanese person saying the English word animation. And that's why I think there is no satisfying answer to the question, is Avatar an anime? Because there is no objectively correct definition for the word anime. Like how there's no objectively correct definition for the words Riz, Gyat, and Poggers. Because what I hear when somebody asks, is Avatar an anime, is Arcane an anime, they're not asking for an objective answer, they're looking for some kind of subjective understanding to their own subjectivity. At least that's how it was with me. And that's the note I want to leave on, that for any given question, you have your opinion, I have mine, and at the end of the day, we're probably both incorrect because correctness itself might not even exist. In some sense, it's the ultimate wishy-washy answer to anything, but to me, it's also the only ultimate truth I will ever truly believe in. Besides the fact that I hope I never feel the urge to make another video as pretentious as this one.